This will win or lose the football game, and again, it will be Christie as the lone deep back. Ortiz is on the line of scrimmage. Here comes O'Brien. They're going to hand it off to him. Third down and 10, 4-down territory. Flips it, dangerous, but Joey O'Brien has it. And like this, you're going to need those plays to go your way. Oh my goodness. Another season of Chalk Talk. And I know folks have been looking forward to this one here with the head coach of the LaSalle Explorers, Brett Gordon. I'm Bob Long, and Brett, excited to sit down with you each week, recap the game and the week that was, and preview what's coming up next. I know LaSalle fans will be very excited to hear, and I know you're excited that your buddies in the class of 1998 12th Man Club are again stepping up to be a partner in our show here this year. So welcome back.
Thanks, Bob. Shout out to the 98 class. I was on the group text this morning about this specifically. So great to see all the excitement around the program and certainly leading into week 2 for us.
We can talk about week 2 and Malvern Prep, and that's a big game coming up. But I want to take a step back because this was as far west as LaSalle football has ever gone. The opening week of the season in Pittsburgh against Central Catholic, technically a neutral site game at the Wolf Arena, historic venue, but in all effect, you guys are going on the road, 5 hours to go play a football game. What I'm interested in, and I think what the fans are interested in is, okay, you've never done this before. How do you plan for a 5-hour trip? When do you leave? Any pitfalls that you experienced along the way?
Yeah, so first off was how the game came about in the first place. I had an opportunity to speak with Coach Lemeyer from Central Catholic probably last January-ish time frame about the possibility of playing in this kickoff classic. You know, for me, it's always doing an assessment of where the program's at, where you think your team's strengths and weaknesses are going into a season, and then aligning that with, as best you can, find the most competitive schedule that's out there. So knowing what they accomplished last year, I watched them closely down the stretch, knowing what they had coming back as well as ourselves. I thought it was a great opportunity to play against a really good team. When we found out about the logistics as far as the venue, that had us even more excited. The Wolf Arena has a ton of mystique to it over the years out in Western PA of just being an incredible environment for high school football. I thought that was a great opportunity for our players to have a chance to experience that. So then we got into the planning phase of it around, okay, how are we going to do this? School started at LaSalle last Thursday, actually, for all the students. So first had to confirm the school was okay with the kids missing class on a Friday. And because it was a night game, really the only viable opportunity to stay overnight was going to be Friday night after the game. So basically built out an itinerary. You know, I spoke to some folks who have kind of been through this in some capacity and just decided we were gonna drive out the morning of. We left at 8 o'clock on the nose, checked into the hotel. We were fortunate enough to be staying walking distance from the Steelers and the University of Pittsburgh's indoor practice facility. Mark Schmidt, one of our assistant coaches, had a relationship with somebody on the pit staff who was able to set it up where we could get the indoor for about an hour walkthrough. Really, it was nothing more than getting the kids out and about. They were on the bus for a while. And then the other challenge that was thrown into this was we were the second of 2 games. So your typical pregame routine, we weren't able to do. So we were situated about a half mile from the stadium, starting as early as about 5:30 for an 8 o'clock kickoff, which ended up being closer to 8:30 when push came to shove. So we handled all of our taping and kind of our pregame stretching all down there, and then we were basically waiting to be told based on the first game when to come up. So as a coach, these are all things that throw a little bit of wrinkles into your pregame routine, and we got to remember these are high school kids that we're dealing with and making sure that we stay focused, we stay fresh, we stay hydrated, all those things that matter going into a game. And also addressing the fact, and we talked about it, that something's going to go wrong. something's going to happen that we weren't quite factoring into this, and we got to be ready to handle adversity as it's thrown in us. So our sideline got changed right before the game. We thought we were on one side, we were on the other. The locker room changed. Where we were warming up changed. All these things kind of happened. And I'll give a ton of credit to our staff and most importantly our players. They didn't bat an eye. Everybody kind of stayed focused. Then we were thrown into a pretty quick warm up, given that we were standing around waiting, didn't have a locker room. They put time on the clock, and it was like, okay, we're gonna go play. So when I factor all of that in and then look at the outcome and do the assessment of offense, defense, and special teams, we certainly have a ton of things that we need to work on and improve on heading from week one to week two. But to play in that environment, to have the day we had last Friday, starting for most kids at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then not getting out of that stadium till close to 12 o'clock, midnight. It was a long day. I was very proud of the kids from a maturity standpoint, how they handled themselves. And then from the final standpoint, beating a really quality team by 17 points on the road, and especially on the offensive side of the ball without our best stuff. I was very proud of the win as a team, and certainly hats off to our defense for playing the way they did. So anytime you can win a game like that in that environment with a lot of the headwinds that we had around the travel, I was very proud of the football team in general.
I think it's interesting enough to bring up while you talk about your logistics, and you guys had more to deal with than I did, but I'll share with you quickly my itinerary for the day, if you will. So I had come into town the day before, saw a buddy of mine, played a little golf. So it was in Pittsburgh, got to the stadium at 9 o'clock in the morning because had been looking for internet information, right? We got to get connected. That's the only way the game gets on the air. And we have other ways we can get connected if there's not internet at the venue, but that's always our first. If we can get it, that's the best way to get connected. So go there at 9. Fortunate to have a strong internet that I'm able to find and connect to. Okay, I head downtown, spend the day. I come back at 2:30 just to try to see what's going on at the stadium, maybe park the car, and then I'm going to go grab a bite to eat. There's we'll call it the lot probably that you guys parked in, the official lot. My name was not on the pass list there, but you can go, sir, and park in this gravel lot about half a mile down the road. Okay, fine. So I go over to that lot, but I recognize there's not a lot of parking there. There's a game going to happen for this. And when I'm going to get there early enough to get set up, I'm going to come back when this game's in motion. So, all right, I better get a spot now, 2:30 in the afternoon, and then just Uber wherever I'm going to go and make sure I can come back because you got stuff you got to lug up to the top of the stadium. And so thank goodness I parked at 2:30 because by the time the cab came at 2:45, I was parked in 3 different ways. I mean, it was a melee. I couldn't have left that venue if I wanted to. Again, maybe a security guard or two too shy, and a parking space or two too little at that venue. And so fortunate to come back. Bill Wassilenko got me back to the stadium. Poor guy had to walk a mile and a half, but dropped me at my car, and I'm lugging everything to the top around 5:15. So this stuff, not that anyone thinks it does, but the broadcast stuff doesn't just happen. There's a lot of planning that goes into it, and I'll never forget the logistics affiliated with that game, and I'm glad we got it up. So
Yeah, no, the broadcast was outstanding. Got a lot of good feedback. I know we got a lot of views. Spoke to a lot of alumni either via text or family and friends of the program that said it was an outstanding broadcast, and you know how much I value your support of the program and what you do. So
well, I
we appreciate
appreciate
it.
that. We had fun. It was a great trip. How was the night at the hotel, and how early did you get out of Pittsburgh?
I judged the night on the hotel, making sure that we came back with everybody the following morning and had no issues the night after the game. So we have really good kids in our program. I wanted them to certainly be excited and celebrate the victory, but also wanted to make sure we didn't have any problems with, having close to 70, 75 kids between players and managers, that are high school age in a hotel. So kids did a great job. I know there were certainly a lot of tired people on Saturday morning. So basically what we did was we had an 8:30 breakfast check-in between 8:30 and 9 right at the hotel, and then got on the buses and headed back right at 10 a.m. So there were no problems, which to me is a second victory besides the first one. And again, I'll reiterate, just very proud of how the kids handled themselves. Got a lot of good feedback from the hotel staff, even some people that were staying at the hotel about how friendly, respectful, and mature all the boys were. So very proud of them.
Let's talk a little bit about the game itself. And you touched on it on your initial commentary. My thoughts, Central Catholic's defense was flying around, and I was very impressed. We talked about a young secondary group coming into the telecast. I thought those guys stepped up and made it difficult on your receivers. But I thought on LaSalle's side, receivers made some big plays in the second half. I thought Gavin was sharp. I thought, Azir and Josh did a nice job in the running game. And then, of course, your defense was likely the star of the show. I assume that's what you'll tell me. What were your big takeaways from what your club brought to the field for 48 minutes?
Yeah, if I look at it just collectively as a whole, I thought going into that game, our defense was probably going to be the key to the game. And what I meant by that is they had a sophomore quarterback starting his first game. They like to go up tempo, so we spent a lot of time preparing for that. And the number one way to get tempo teams to not get going is to get them off the field. I mean, that's really the secret to it. So the defensive staff and our players did a great job of really not letting that running game get going at all. I think they had maybe one or two runs throughout the course of the game where, in that kind of 15 to 20 yard range, but we didn't let them hit us for anything big. And then the rest of the game, we did a really good job just tightening the screws on the run game and putting a lot of pressure on their passing game. So that was a big focal point for us going in, and I'd say that was certainly successful. From a special team standpoint, I think we were just okay. There's some areas that we met at our special teams meeting on Tuesday night, called out some things that we need to get fixed. I know they're going to get fixed under Coach French's leadership there. And then from an offensive standpoint, which, as the head coach, but also essentially the offense coordinator and play caller, I spent a lot of time breaking down the offense and trying to understand what worked, what didn't, what did we do well, what do we have areas to improve on. And even the kids themselves identified, a lot of areas that we need to get better and get really better fast on the offensive side. So at the end of the day, I told the players, this is about winning. We win as a team, we lose as a team. The defense set the pace for us Friday night. I think offensively, we got a lot of areas to improve. But then I look at the statistics of the game and say, we threw the ball for, I think, 270 yards. We had over 155 yards on the ground, which is really good balance. But at the same time, saw a tremendous amount of opportunities to get a lot better from every position across the field. So typically when you're looking at teams, and my experience has been, how are they going to project the rest of the year? Most of the really good teams, you see the most growth between week 1 and week 2. So what we've talked about this entire week with our players is, in some instances, our fate this year is going to be, to me, determined by how we play against a very good Malvern Prep team. I thought Central Catholic was a very, very good opponent. They were good across the board at all 22 positions. Their staff does a really good job. They were ready to play. Again, I thought offensively we would play a little bit more consistently and with a little more crispness, probably is what I was expecting. But I also want to give credit to them. I mean, their defense was flying around. They were physical, and they certainly had something to do with that. So anytime you can win a game against that type of opponent in an environment like that, we already talked about the day itself, where how it presented some challenges. Win it fairly convincingly, but also have a lot of really important things to focus on and get the guys focused very quickly on getting better, I think is a good thing as far as the outlook for the rest of the season.
Growth from week 1 to week 2. That's what I took away from that answer. And so let's talk about Malvern Prep. It's a terrific rivalry. I think back to last year, just one man's opinion. Harrisburg was what it was, made a huge statement. Malvern was a team that was humming on all cylinders and ended up having a terrific year with some huge regional wins. When I look back on that win against Malvern Prep, it's that one and at the regular season win against St. Joe's Prep that really stand out to me as where you guys played excellent football against top-notch competition. I think this iteration of Malvern Prep is a similarly talented group. What do you see when you look at this week's matchup?
I agree with you. I think Malvern looks like your typical Malvern team to me from what I've seen. They're just a really good solid football team all around with very few weaknesses from what I've seen. So Coach Guerrera does a great job. That program's been really strong for a long time. I would agree with you that last year I would say Malvern and St. Joe's were probably the two best teams that we played. When I look at how the game went last year, um, they were physical, they were athletic, and they look no different this year. So we have to be up to task. I know we're coming into this game with a tremendous amount of respect for them and what they're bringing to the table. They got a lot of really good football players. Some we saw last year, some are going to be some newer faces. Um, but really, we try to do as best we can, Bob, and not focus as much on our opponents. I mean, we know we certainly have our game planning and know what they like to do, just like they would do to us. Our focus is going to continue to be on LaSalle and making sure that we are making significant strides week to week from where we were last week to this week. And we believe that over the course of, August, September, October, if we continue to make those strides, then we'll be playing at a level that we'll feel good about as the season comes down the stretch. So overall, it's going to be a great environment. The both schools have done such a great job of ensuring that this game continues down at a great venue. There's going to be a lot of excitement, a great crowd. The weather's supposed to be tremendous. And, we feel very appreciative as a program, to have an opportunity to compete in games like this in these types of environments. That's why our kids come to LaSalle and want to be a part of this. And same thing with Malvern.
I think we'll bring it full circle to get you out of here. Logistics. There is no easy way or time to get down to the Jersey Shore on Labor Day weekend. And so, what do your logistics look like for this coming weekend's games? When do you get down there? How do you get down there? How do you bide your time? I know there are other games going on throughout the
Yeah.
weekend. What does that look like?
This will be different in the sense that the game before us is a noon kickoff, so this will not impact our pregame warmup. We To your point earlier, we've done this for a handful of years now, so we have it pretty much down. We'll leave anywhere in the 1 to 1:30 range, factoring in probably 2 to 2.5 hours with some Labor Day Friday traffic. We'd rather certainly err on the side of getting there a little bit early than a little bit late. There's plenty of area down there to kind of to spread out and get ready. And then right around the 4:30 p.m. time frame, which is 90 minutes before kickoff, our official pregame itinerary will kick in. One of the things we started last year that I brought with me from my college years was a very prescriptive pregame warm up mapped out by the minute, to make sure we're accounting for all 90 minutes leading up to kickoff. It helps keep us organized. The kids have done a great job adapting it. That was one of the things we couldn't do last week, which had me a little bit concerned that was going to throw us off a little bit. But last year worked out just fine. Knock on wood, there's no issues getting down to Ocean City. And then, like I said, should be the weather looks great. The crowd will be fantastic. We're looking forward to having our band back this week, which we didn't have last week. So certainly a lot of excitement going into a game that, should be a great one.
We're looking forward to it. It's always a highlight for us on the broadcast side. And wishing you the best and good health this week in practice, Coach. Thanks for taking the time to do this, and we'll talk to you next week.
Great, Bob. Appreciate it as always. We'll talk soon.